Welcome to Before AGI Weekly, your essential AI news digest.
Glad to be here.
So this week, we're really going to dive deep into the most significant AI developments. We're synthesizing a whole lot of information.
Yeah, trying to bring you those clear, actionable insights.
Exactly. Think of this as, your shortcut to understanding where AI is actually heading right now.
Absolutely. And it's been a really dynamic period lately, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Some fascinating advancements across the board.
Totally. From core model upgrades to big strategic shifts and some interesting global stuff happening too.
Lots to unpack.
Okay, let's get into it then. One of the big themes seems to be open source. IBM made some noise there recently.
They did. They contributed three pretty significant open source projects to the Linux Foundation AI and Data Foundation.
Okay, so what are they and why is this a big deal?
Well, you've got BAI, which is focused on agent-to-agent communication, multiple AIs talking to each other using a standard protocol.
Interesting, like a multi-agent system enabler.
Kind of, yeah. Then there's Dockling, which is huge for document manipulation. Apparently it already has like 27,000 GitHub stars. So it's got traction.
Wow, okay.
And finally, Data Prep Kit. This one tackles cleaning and transforming unstructured data, specifically for language models.
Right, that unstructured data problem, that's massive for businesses, isn't it?
Oh, huge. So much enterprise data is just locked up in PDFs, documents, you name it. Data Prep Kit aims to, help unlock that.
And BAI, that points towards more complex AI setups, maybe?
I think so. More collaborative AI systems.
Yeah.
And it all fits this broader trend, right? Big tech releasing serious enterprise-grade tools as open source. It democratizes things a bit.
Yeah, lowers the barrier to entry. But, all this tech progress, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's this whole geopolitical layer.
Absolutely. April 2025 was, well, a lot happened. You had cool tech like the AI nose for robots detecting hazards.
And AI knows, seriously.
Yeah, from iNews and Yugo Robotics. And DeepSeek in China shared some model deployment tech. Plus, more investment in ethics, White House education initiatives.
But then the really sharp end, those U.S. tariffs on Chinese tech, 145%. That's serious.
It really is. It frames AI not just as an economic engine, but as a battleground almost.
So it creates this tension, this uncertainty.
Exactly. Intense geopolitical friction. I mean, its tech strategies need to be super adaptable now. It impacts everything, supply chains, talent flow, collaborations.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, but still on major players. Meta, Llama 4. That announcement landed pretty heavily.
It did, the whole Llama 4 suite, but the standout was definitely Llama 4 Scout.
The context window, right. 10 million tokens. What does that even mean in practical terms?
It's unprecedented, really. Think about feeding it like multiple full-length novels or massive code bases, and it can process all that context at once.
Okay, so for research, legal analysis, complex coding, that's huge.
Massive potential, yeah. And they also mentioned Llama 4 Maverick, more of a generalist model. And they're using a mixture of experts, architecture, MoE.
Right, MoE. That's about efficiency, isn't it? Like only activating the relevant parts of the model.
Precisely. Think of it as having specialists within the model. Makes it faster and potentially better at certain tasks without needing a single enormous model.
But there was a catch with the licensing this time, something about users.
Yeah, a slight pivot, perhaps. It's still open weight, but there's a new caveat. If your service using Llama 4 hits over 700 million monthly active users, you need a specific license from Meta.
Ah, so they're keeping some control, especially for the really big players who might compete with them.
Seems like it. Balancing that open approach with, strategic commercial interests. It's a significant technical leap, but also a strategic signal.
Makes sense. Okay, so with these models getting so powerful, regulation becomes even more critical. Let's talk about the EU AI Act. Where are we with that?
It's rolling out, phase by phase. The first phase kicked off February 2nd, 2025, banning the unacceptable risk systems, things like social scoring by governments.
Right, the most harmful stuff first.
Exactly. And now we're moving into the next stages. We'll see codes of practice developed, then transparency rules for general-purpose AI, and eventually the compliance deadlines for the high-risk systems.
So things like AI in medical devices or critical infrastructure.
Precisely those. The EU is definitely trying to be the global standard setter here. It has big implications for any company operating in or even selling into the EU.
And elsewhere, in Africa, there's a specific focus growing on AI ethics from a local perspective.
Yes, which is so important. The new AI Ethics and Policy course from UCT's Ethics Lab and the African Observatory on Responsible AI.
Why is that regional focus so key?
Well, because ethics aren't universal.
Yeah.
Right? Context matters. African countries have unique cultural values, societal challenges, histories. An AI governance model needs to reflect that. It can't just be imported wholesale from Silicon Valley or Brussels.
So it's about developing locally relevant frameworks.
Exactly. Centering African voices and experiences in the global AI ethics conversation. It's vital for ensuring AI is deployed responsibly and equitably there.
Okay, let's swing back to the big tech players. Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental. What's the story there?
The big push seems to be twofold. Much better reasoning capabilities and native multimodality.
Native multimodality meaning?
Meaning it's designed from the ground up to handle images, audio, video alongside text, not just bolted on later. It understands different data types inherently.
Got it. And reasoning, making it smarter at complex tasks.
That's the goal. They're also boasting a big context window starting at 1 million tokens, aiming for 2 million.
Comparable to others then, and people can try this now.
Yeah, if you have Gemini Advanced or use Google AI Studio, it's available experimentally. It feels like a real step up in, let's say, the core thinking ability of the AI.
Which, of course, needs powerful hardware. That brings us to NVIDIA and their GTC conference. What were the main announcements?
Blackwell. That was the headline. Their new GPU platform, they're claiming something like a 40-fold performance increase.
40-fold. That's staggering.
It really is. And they even teased the next generation Blackwell Ultra is already on the roadmap.
So the pace isn't slowing down on the hardware front.
Not at all. This kind of power is what enables training these massive models like Llama 4 or Gemini 2.5. They also showed updates to NVIDIA AC for digital humans and announced a quantum computing research lab. They're pushing on all fronts.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift to the creative side. AI video generation. Runway released Gen 4. What's new there?
Runway's Gen models have been pretty cutting edge. Gen 4 seems to make big strides in consistency, generating characters and objects that look the same across different shots in a video.
That's been a major hurdle, right? Keeping things consistent.
A huge one. And they're also talking about better narrative control, using visual references to guide the generation. So more realistic motion, better style consistency.
Could that start to genuinely disrupt film and video production?
I think it's getting closer. It definitely lowers the barrier for creating high-quality video content. The implications for creative industries are pretty significant.
Interesting. Now, from practical applications to more fundamental research, MIT's LinoS model, inspired by the brain.
Yeah, LinoS, linear oscillatory state space models. It's inspired by how neurons oscillate in the brain. The idea is to make AI better at processing really long sequences of data.
Like what kind of data?
Think climate modeling, analyzing biological signals over time, long-term financial trends, things where patterns unfold over extended periods.
And how does it perform?
They're reporting it's stable, expressive, and more computationally efficient than some existing approaches for these tasks. It's a cool example of, biology inspiring new AI architectures.
Very cool. Back to Google for a moment. AMIE, their medical AI, it got an upgrade.
A big one. AMI now has sight. It's become multimodal.
Meaning it can see images.
Exactly. Powered by Gemini 2.0 Flash, it can now look at things like photos of skin conditions or ECG readouts during a diagnostic conversation with a simulated patient.
Wow. How well does it do?
Apparently quite well in simulations. Google's research suggests it sometimes outperformed actual primary care physicians in diagnostic accuracy and empathy in those controlled settings.
That's potentially transformative for healthcare, telemedicine, diagnostics.
Huge potential, yes.
Oh.
But also raises really important ethical questions and considerations about deployment, obviously.
Definitely. Now, speaking of efficiency, there was an interesting tidbit from OpenAI engineers about rebuilding GPT-4.
Right. They claimed that with the advancements they've made since GPT-4 was originally built, they could probably rebuild it now with a much smaller team, like 5 to 10 people instead of the hundreds it took initially.
What does that signal? Just better tools.
Better tools, better training methods, more efficient data handling. It suggests the process of building these massive models is becoming, perhaps, more streamlined. Could lower the bar for creating frontier models in the future.
Fascinating. And while we're on the topic of major players and global strategy, the U.S. is apparently rethinking AI chip export controls.
Yeah, reports suggest the administration might move away from the current tiered system of restrictions.
Towards what?
potentially towards government-to-government licensing deals.
Yeah.
So instead of setting technical thresholds, maybe it becomes more about bilateral agreements on who gets access to what level of chip technology.
That could really shake things up, couldn't it, for chip makers like NVIDIA, for global AI development?
Absolutely. It would change the strategic calculations for everyone involved in high-end AI hardware, a major potential shift in how access to cutting-edge compute is managed globally.
And speaking of strategic plans, the EU isn't just regulating. They have an AI continent action plan now.
They do. The European Commission laid out a pretty comprehensive strategy to boost the EU's position in trustworthy AI.
What's in the plan?
A lot, actually. Strengthening data infrastructure, compute power, skills. There's talk of a Cloud and AI Development Act, an Apply AI strategy to get AI into businesses, more funding for AI and science, maybe even a European AI Research Council.
So, investing heavily alongside the regulation.
Seems to be the idea. Balancing the rules with actively fostering innovation. They even mentioned an AI Act service desk to help companies navigate the rules and maybe revisiting parts of the act if they prove too burdensome. It's a big strategic push.
Okay, let's jump over to China. Baidu launched new Ernie models.
Yes, upgraded versions. Ernie 4.5 Turbo, which is multimodal, and Ernie X1 Turbo, focused on deep reasoning.
What's the angle there? Just better performance?
Better performance, yes, but the really striking thing is the cost. They're claiming usage costs are 60 to 75% cheaper than previous versions, and the basic Ernie chatbot service is now free.
Ah, so they're competing aggressively on price, trying to spur adoption within China.
That looks like the strategy. Make powerful AI much more affordable to drive innovation and usage across Chinese industries. It heats up the competitive landscape considerably.
Interesting. Now, a quick detour back to OpenAI. They had a bit of a stumble with GPT 4.0 recently, something about it being too agreeable.
Yeah, a bit of an alignment issue. Users started reporting that a recent update made GPT 4.0 overly sycophantic, basically. Yeah. Too eager to please or agree, maybe losing some critical edge.
And OpenAI's response.
They actually rolled back the update pretty quickly based on that user feedback. They acknowledged the issue and said they're working on fixes before trying again.
It highlights how tricky it is to get this alignment right, doesn't it? Tuning these models is hard.
Very hard. And it shows the importance of listening to user feedback when models behave unexpectedly. Fine-tuning behavior is an ongoing challenge.
Definitely. Related to the export rules we mentioned earlier, NVIDIA is apparently designing specific chips for China now.
That's the report. Trying to thread the needle, basically. Design chips that comply with the U.S. export restrictions, but are still powerful enough to be attractive to their Chinese customers.
So, navigating the rules to maintain market access.
Exactly. It's a balancing act forced by the geopolitical situation, trying to offer the best possible performance within the legal limits set by the U.S. government.
Okay, one more Google development, Gemini 2.5 Flash. What's special about this one?
This one's interesting because it introduces a kind of hybrid reasoning. It has an explicit internal thinking step it can perform before giving you an answer.
Like it consciously works through the problem first.
Sort of, yeah. Developers can even control the thinking budget, how much computational effort it puts into that internal reasoning step.
Why do that?
The idea is to get better performance on really complex reasoning tasks, where just generating an immediate answer might lead to errors, but do it in a way that's still cost-efficient compared to just using a much larger model all the time.
Smart. Targeted thinking power.
Potentially, yeah. A way to get deeper reasoning without breaking the bank.
And finally, Adobe. They've been integrating AI deeply into their creative tools. What's the latest?
They rolled out their new Firefly Image Model 4 with an Ultra Variant 2, plus their first generative video model. And crucially, they've integrated all this, and even models from competitors like OpenAI and Google, into a revamped Firefly web app.
So creating like a central hub for creative AI.
Exactly. A unified toolbox. They're emphasizing improved quality, speed, control, and importantly, that the content generated is commercially safe, trained on licensed or public domain data.
Playing to their strengths with creative professionals who need that safety net?
Precisely. Offering a one-stop-shop AI powerhouse for creatives built on a foundation they trust.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot. Let's try and pull back and see the bigger picture. Looking across all these developments, what are the key meta trends you're seeing shape AI right now?
Well, a few things really stand out, I think. First, you clearly see this regional diversification of AI governance. The EU, Africa, the US. They're all taking distinct paths on regulation and ethics.
Different priorities, different approaches.
Right. Second, the actual architecture of these big foundation models is evolving fast. We talked about mixture of experts, those massive context windows. Those seem to be major direction.
Pushing the boundaries of capability and efficiency.
Exactly. Third, there's this interesting tension between openness and strategic control. Meta's licensing change, IBM's open source push, DeepSeek sharing tech path. Everyone's navigating that balance differently.
Deciding what to share and what to keep close.
Fourth, AI is definitely expanding beyond just text and images. That AI knows the advancements in video generation. It's becoming much more multi-sensory.
Yeah, interacting with the world in more ways.
And maybe fifth, we're starting to see infrastructure challenges surface more explicitly, like reports of compute shortages in specific fields like genomics. The demand is huge.
The hardware needs to keep pace.
It does. And finally, I'd say ethical considerations are becoming more integrated into the development cycle itself. OpenAI rolling back that update, the Africa Ethics course. Adobe focusing on commercially safe models. It's less of an afterthought, maybe.
That's a good summary. It has been a truly fascinating period in AI. We've seen more than just, small steps forward. There are some really significant shifts happening.
Absolutely. In the tech itself, in company strategies, and how the world is grappling with it.
From those open source moves trying to empower more people, to the huge geopolitical forces shaping hardware, and this constant drive for AI that's not just more capable, but also hopefully more aligned and beneficial. It's incredibly dynamic.
It really underscores the speed of innovation, doesn't it? And how deeply AI is weaving itself into, everything. It demands we keep paying close attention.
Well, we hope this deep dive has helped you do just that, brought you up to speed, maybe sparked some thinking, and given you those clear, actionable insights we talked about.
Definitely consider how these trends might impact what you do, your industry, the world around you. What we covered today is really just a snapshot.
Yeah, it's a launch pad for your own exploration. So thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the week's AI developments. Stay curious, keep exploring.
Keep asking questions.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's Essential AI News Digest. And hey, for more in-depth AI tutorials and explorations, feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Ian Ochieng AI. That's Ochieng.
Always learning.
Absolutely. Now, here's a final thought to leave you with. As AI gets ever more capable and integrated into our daily lives, how do we collectively ensure its rapid evolution actually benefits all of humanity and truly reflects our shared values? Something to ponder. We'll see you next week.